Welcome to the OFX podcast. I'm Dave Claxton, and along with me, as always, is the left lane lunatic, Bethany McChesney. Want to start there?
Just dive right in.
Get it right. Screw the foreplay. Let's get right into the main course.
Yeah.
No appetizers, no nothing. How's your day? Do you want to talk about what you're watching on television?
What I'm watching on television?
Yeah. Okay. So by the way, yeah. So this, we've been doing some of those fails and sales and stuff like that. I'm going to say my fail right now, even though we were going to talk about your thing. But no, right now I'm going to say my fail. When I listen to some CrossFit podcasts, right? And
Okay.
when I listen to them, I don't care what you're watching on television. I don't want to know. I don't
Mm-mm.
care how your cat is. By the way, and I make fun of Matt for doing this too. So I don't want to know these things. I want to know about CrossFit,
Yeah.
right? So if especially when you put on your write up, we're talking about this person, in this event, not 20 minutes of what you're watching on television.
I don't
I
watch television, so
I know. So that's why
yeah, okay.
you're not. I don't want you to tell. I don't want us to tell people what we're watching on television. I don't think anybody gives a fuck what we're watching on television,
No.
right? They want to hear
Mm.
about Bethany being a lunatic in the left lane. That's what people are listening for.
Am I?
I don't know. So tell us your story. What's going on? We'll start.
Uh, you want to start with the doubles race?
Yeah, but by the way, first off, with your doubles race, congratulations,
Thank you.
going to Worlds. And
Yep.
I know from someone who gets to race with their partner how fun it is and how awesome that must be.
Yeah, like the doubles races are always a blast. You get to do that with someone and kind of go to war with your partner. And yeah, this weekend, Toronto Hyrox was an amazing experience all around. I was really excited for this weekend, and the build up of all of it for even the months leading up to it, because we had so many people from the gym that were signing up. And it's kind of like, I did my first Hyrox in at the beginning of 2020. And it's kind of this thing that I've talked about, and it's always been so hard for me to convince anyone to even consider the idea of doing a Hyrox. So when Toronto was like right around the corner from us, I was like, guys, you gotta sign up for Hyrox. Like, I don't really care. You have time to prepare. And I got a lot of people on board. So I was super stoked about this weekend in general. Um, yeah, so the doubles race, this was a sold out event. Day two was not sold out, but it was still a very, very well attended event. And the doubles race I was doing with my partner Jeff, and we've raced once together before, and we had a goal to beat our time from before, so go sub 65, potentially sub 60 if everything went well. Um, and then hopefully that would secure us a spot at the world champs in our age group for doubles. Um, yeah, and we both felt great that morning. Legs were clicking after racing the day before, and the frustrations kind of began when the course was just crowded, so crowded. And so this race also had, from the stat that I heard, 88% new racers, which
Yeah.
meant some of the race etiquette was kind of lost on some people. As far as the run portion was very crowded, and typically, so then the inside lane is considered the fast lane. There's lots of signs that say fast lane. If you're passing, you go into the left side. And my my role in our doubles primarily also is I keep the pace, and I'm running. Jeff kind of clings onto my back. I'm very good at setting the pace. You tell me what to run, I'll run it. And so I felt like I was breaking the way breaking the way through. But I spent so much time yelling at people. I probably said on your left 1,000 times. And the frustrations were just that people did not really want to move. And so it would be like yelling multiple times on your left, on your left, on your left, until I'd end up running into them, and then they would be pissed off. And there was times when I was like elbowed into the barriers, and or people would decide that they wanted me to pass on the other side of them. So they'd be like, no, go that way. And like, that's not the way this works. Like
Yeah.
there's general etiquette here. Like you move to the right, I go to the left. And it's like this in driving. When you learn to drive, you get your license, you like fast people go to the left. When we don't follow this rule, there's chaos that happens and there can be accidents and collisions. So we always pass to the left. Same thing in racing. And or times when, again, this was a 2.5 loop run, and so when you're coming into that end, which was right after a turn, some people would also decide that that was the point when they needed to take a hard left, or they would just decide to start walking before they made it inside. So the amount of times I was elbowed or I would run into the back of people, and I was sworn at, was just a little bit frustrating. And not, or in the rock zone, when people were finishing a zone and then
Yeah.
they would walk very casually, sometimes often two abreast with their partner. And when you're coming out of zones and it's a narrow pathway anyways, and you have to like, please just get out of the way.
Yes.
And not, again, if you were driving, you wouldn't just casually walk across a highway without looking if there were people coming or cars coming that were driving fast that could run into you. Just so, anyways, it was very, very frustrating. And there was a couple times where I was sworn at, and where I would, especially when people were going into the end. One time I ran into a woman because she decided to cut in hard left and stopped. And I smashed into her dead stop. And the husband was like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And was like, oh my God. And at that moment, I was like, I'm done. I was like almost gonna cry. I'm like, I'm just so done with this. Like, and yeah, so I felt like at points I was like choking back tears because I was just really frustrated. Um, but anyways, yeah, it was a very, very crowded course at that point. And I remember at one point hearing the announcer say, very excitedly, we probably have 1,000 racers out on the run course. And in my head, I was like, this is not a good thing. Don't be so excited about it because it's not fun. But yeah, anyways, we ended up running a decent time, 102. So kind of,
A
passenger.
substantial PR.
Yeah, a big PR. Um, and yeah, I didn't drop out in a ball of tears. I did get smashed into the barriers a couple times. I did get sworn at a lot, but we finished and
You got your world's call.
we won our age group. We got our world's call, but yeah, I finished kind of feeling like I did not enjoy that at all.
Oh, boohoo, Bethany. I won the age group and got a world's call.
I know, I I know, and I'm trying not to be like really.
No, no, but you know what?
No, it's an etiquette thing, and like, man, I love Hyrox. There's some things that I feel like would should just be stressed a little bit more about kind of the way things roll when
Well,
you're
you know,
racing.
we talk about all the time about community, right? And everybody loves community, the Hyrox community,
Yeah.
the high society, whatever, all that
Mhm.
stuff. And we are all fans and we all love the community stuff. But you're right. Part of that community needs to be etiquette and needs to be
Mhm.
respect for the sport and for your other athletes. I believe that the mindset needs to be changed to fast and slow lane, to the left lane being a passing lane. And the
Mhm.
only time you go in there is when you're passing. So even Bethany
Yeah.
or Tara or Amy Bevilacqua, who is bionically fast,
Yeah.
are not running in that left lane unless they are passing. And
Yeah.
then, for example, like in the Toronto course, where it was a corner and then a very short distance to the inn.
Mhm.
There should not
Yeah.
be for passing either. That should just be an entrance, like an on ramp, an off ramp on the highway.
Mhm.
So you go in through there, so people aren't cutting right across from the outside, slamming into each other and things like
Mhm.
that. And you make it a very short distance that way. Like if Beth has to wait to pass somebody there, it's just 2 seconds or something like that.
Yeah.
And
But
don't
I don't
walk.
mind running around the outside of
Yeah.
people. And I will say 99% of people were super respectful, and that was fine.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
just it's a couple people who were like what's wrong with you? Or like, move to your right or like stuff like that. It's like, this is not the way this works.
No. And if you and there's nothing wrong if you got to stop, if you got to walk, if you got to do whatever, that's cool. You just move over to the
Yeah.
right so you're out of the way, and that's great and that's perfect. You run the race you need to run. Just follow the etiquette, follow the rules, and be mindful of others. And and everybody will be fine. Everything's great. Like even Ryan and I, like so Ryan and I are not the fastest runners, right? We're not the slowest.
Mhm.
We're not the fastest. And we were passing many people and very many times had to go weaving in and out and all over the place. And a couple times we were like, where did she go? Like we're not even knowing where my partner was
Mhm.
because we had to like split the defense and go different ways.
Yeah.
And the other options we could do is I could just plow the road, right? But that's obviously not going to fix anything. That's not
Well,
anything.
and you don't want to be like smashing into people either.
Oh yeah, we're going all out, man. Linebacker
Well,
straight through the middle.
I I mean, I don't love that is not really an effective strategy for me. I like I actually got a like slice on my arm because I got like smashed into the barriers at one point. So it does not work well for me
Yeah.
um, to try to like power my way through the crowd. But I think if think about it's if you're driving in a highway and you
Somewhere other than
you don't
Brampton.
really slowly pull out into a 4-lane highway.
Yeah. You got to
You will
merge with the speed
crowd.
of traffic.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you're moving at the speed of traffic, you
Yeah,
don't just walk into it.
and we're talking a good highway, not a highway in Brampton, because that's no good.
Yeah.
Do you know
Or else,
Brampton is like the worst driving in Canada?
is it?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think it's like one of the highest insurance premiums. It's
Oh,
terrible.
really?
Yeah, search on Instagram, Brampton driving. It's
Oh.
good stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, and like you say, we talk about negative stuff, but 90% of the race was probably very good.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of people would be like, oh, sorry, sorry, sorry. And it was fine. But it was just a couple people that were like, acted like I was doing something awful by asking them to move. Or like if I ran into them because they started to walk before going into the inn, I was a horrible human being. It's like I don't know what you want me to do. Like I'm sorry, I'm running faster than you. I need you to move. Like,
So, but it should be an easy problem solved, and hopefully people,
yeah.
and maybe like you said, 88% new people, which I think again was great. That's fantastic that they exposed the
Hmm.
sport to that many new people and it grew that much. And I think they said somewhere around 7,000 people in total, including spectators for the weekend. Which again, wow, that's awesome.
That's
That
so amazing. Yeah. And I love that. I love that for Hyrox.
pretty much guarantees that they're going to come back, and that's good.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Hmm.
all right. So I'll talk about my doubles, and then you can talk about your other race. So my doubles, we went in Ryan and I, and we had obviously not the same lofty ambitions. We just wanted to PR and kind of make up for our race in New York, which in New York was a PR as well, but we just felt we underperformed a lot due to heat and situations and
Yeah.
whatnot. But so we had a plan, and our plan was very simple. I would go in, we'd run, Riley would set the run pace. I would start the zones and finish the zones. She'd do a bit in the middle, and we'd go from there. And I would just make sure that I didn't burn myself out too much so that I could keep up to her. So we did that, and right from zone one, like we broke the ski erg up. I didn't. I know you, Jeff, switched a lot. I don't know if you did some, but we went 200 meters each. We did 200 meters. I started. She did two. I did two. She did two, and then I finished with two. And it worked great. We were very fresh coming out of the skier. Felt fantastic, rather than burn out. And again, the pace, like we kept it really casual.
Why did they change the skier rule that you can't hand off the handles?
No idea.
I don't know, it's better for the
As a
Yeah.
short person who can't reach the handles without jumping, I really appreciate it when my partner can hand me the handles.
I saw the look.
By the way, I think you guys should be disqualified, as I did see a handoff there. I mean, it was pretty bad.
Yes, and then we got a warning, and then we did it right after that.
I saw actually the girl beside you tell Jeff, "Well, you can't do
I know
that."
it was reflex because that's a
That
new rule. It
yeah, and
never
that's the
used to
way
be like that.
we've done it in DECA all the time. It's always that,
Yeah, well,
and
exactly.
it
We're
just
just
makes
used to it.
sense. And
Yeah.
like Rye said, it's better for the equipment.
Yes, exactly. Because
So
the amount of times that those handles smash it and it creates that vibration in the system. And I have fixed my ski ergs before because those ropes fall off the track. So
yeah.
it makes more sense logically for you to be able to hand them off to your partner. But
Well, and the
anyway,
strain on the string from the snap of the rope, and possibly frame. Anyway, the only thing I can think of, and this I don't agree with this. I think this is faulty logic, but it's the only logic I can even come up with, is that they somehow feel that if two of you are, they're opening the door to two people holding onto the handles at once or something like that.
that would be really hard to do.
I know I'm grasping at straws here because I have
Okay.
no
Okay.
other logical explanation, and that's not an illogical explanation. Okay, I don't have any other explanation, logical or illogical. That's just the way it is.
Well,
Um,
it'd be like you could just then create a rule that says two people cannot be
touching,
doing the station at the same time. It'd be like the sled push.
yeah,
Like you can't both be pushing a handle or whatever.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know why they do it. It doesn't make sense to me. Maybe they'll change it because I mean they did recently change the stuff about the damper settings, where now you can adjust it as much as you want or whatever the case. Whereas before it was you can only do it once and that's it.
Yeah.
If you screw it up, you're on your own. Like so it made no sense
Yeah.
to do that because there's no advantage to changing your damper settings every 100 meters and stuff.
No.
There's not like a secret hack. So I don't understand why that. If anything, it just slows you down because you're
Yeah,
stopping the
exactly.
change. So I don't know why. Anyway, so I don't know why. Maybe one day we'll find out. Maybe we'll message Minter and see if she'll say why they have it, but they do, and it seems silly and foolish, but there it is. Um, I don't know. So how did you guys break it up? Would you each do?
45 seconds.
So you went time wise. Okay.
Yeah.
So for us, it was more important to do it by meters to make sure that I started and finished and that she had time to rest.
Hmm.
That's why we did it that way. So we did the same in the sled push. I pushed most of the first length and she would go a little bit. And then I finished. Same with the sled pull. I would pull the beginning. And if you are having a case where your partner or you have a partner who's maybe not as strong as the other partner for sled pull, especially, I find it's really advantageous to, for example, the stronger partner pull like the first 3/4 of the pull because that's the hardest part, and
Hmm.
then let them pull the last part because it's much easier when the rope's short.
Yeah, it
And
is.
then I just did the whole last length or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we carried that on through everything, and it worked really well. We pretty much hit every time we had. We had a little hiccup on our last run. I mean, it wasn't due to cardio or anything like that. It was just some knee issues, and went from there. And wall balls went okay, and yeah, we ended up with a 6 minute PR. So we were
That's
6 minutes faster than we were in New York, and
awesome.
I think most of it was on the run in the rock zone, which basically the same thing, really, in my mind.
Yeah.
So, but considering neither one of us have really been training or running, that was good, and I think it's had us both now. We're like, okay, maybe we'll hit this a little harder because in 2026 we jump up an age division, and if we had been in that division this year, we would have been fighting for the podium.
Hmm.
And I think we can be much better where we could have been on that podium, possibly get a world's call for that age division. So yeah, we're gonna work on it a bit
Hmm.
and throw a little more running into our work because I'm running like nothing more than 100 meters at a time lately, or
Yeah,
160
you need
meters
to
at a
run
time.
more, Dave. Mhm.
But I've been doing 90% of my cardio on the machines, right? Because of what I've been training for a DECA, right? That's where I need to hit it, right? I mean, my DECA Worlds experience is going to consist of 1,000 meters of running on fit and 320 meters of running on the mile.
Mhm.
So that'll be it. So I don't really need to run a time
Yeah.
to prepare for that. But so yeah, but we had a great race and a great event, and we had a lot of fun. Like I said, we had some issues on the running as well with crowding, and I think for me too, the sleds moved well. That's something else we did. I'm going to talk about. Sleds seem to move great. I didn't have any issues with the sleds. I don't know about you. From when I watched you guys run together, they seem to move quite well for you.
Yeah, like they moved well. We're not the biggest, strongest athletes, so some of the teams beside us moved it effortlessly.
Well,
So
yeah, watching you guys, because we did luck. Like I said, we barely saw each other on Saturday at all. I
Yeah.
don't know that actually, I don't know that I even saw you at all. I saw Jeff a little bit.
I think I saw you once during
Yeah.
my women's pro race, and you said something like, keep somewhere. I don't even remember where it was because you're in race mode, but I remember you saying something like, keep going. And I was like, oh, there's Dave. And I don't remember where it was.
So, but Saturday, Sunday, we were able to watch your entire race. You and Jeff, we saw your whole race, and we were able to go station to station with this. And you guys were having these great back and forth with two
Yeah.
other couples, and whether they're couples or not, or whatever, but two
Yeah.
other mixed teams, and it was really great to watch. Like because they would be faster, like especially on the sled back and forth, and then you guys would take it back on the run. And this was just exciting to watch. It was a great back and forth fun.
Well, and I think so that's also one of the reasons why my frustrations were getting so high with the running is because we were in this battle with this other team. And the team in particular that we were really battling with was a couple that, again, Jeff had a conversation with them on the skier because Jeff always makes friends in races. And we found out like they were in like the under 25 age group or whatever. And
Yeah.
it was, you know, high level hockey player, big guy, and
No,
the
he's a
girl,
big boy.
yeah, and the girl could run, and so like, okay, they're half our age, but we're gonna try to race them. And yeah, he moved the sleds like it was no joke. So, but we could catch up with them again on the running. And so I was really trying to use our running to keep up with this team. And when there's just so many literal roadblocks, it was just getting to be really frustrating. Yeah. So I think again, when you're in a race with someone and you're trying to fight against these like external factors that are outside of the race itself, I think that's why I was getting so frustrated. With running into people all the time. So, but yeah, we had a really good back and forth with one team in particular, and yeah, they were really good push for us because they were just so good on the stations.
So we had, and I encourage people to, if you ever are racing Hyrox or something like that, and you don't really know in your wave who's who, or if you're the racing, just pick someone near you and race with them and have fun. Like, because we had Ryan and I, same thing. We had probably two other teams, one especially that we were leaping, frogging back and forth with. And they even said to us once on one of the run, the guy said to me, he's like, I thought we had you at the rower. And I'm like, no, not there, not there.
Mm.
And then they would pull ahead, and then I thought we had them because we flew by them on the farmer's carry. Right. We were trucking.
Mm.
And I thought that because we had been doing pretty good on the runs against them, I thought, okay, we like, I thought if they didn't pass us on that run and we go into the next zone, we're gonna. But it ended up, I think they got us in the wall balls. They were really good. But anyway, but it was great fun and it was a good race. And some other couple in our age group who was much younger than us, they said to me after, like, you guys are amazing. Like,
Mhm.
and clearly we're probably twice their age. But it just pick someone in your age group that you're around or in your wave that you're around. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just race. Just have fun with it.
Yeah.
And if you win, who cares? If you lose, who cares? Just race.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. To me, it's always I find that happens a lot. Like it used to happen in Spartan races. I'm like, I don't know who this guy is, but we're running about the same speed. Let's make each other better.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a great race. All right, what about your pro race?
My pro race. Yeah. The pro racing, and I didn't go into with huge expectations, but I really wanted to try to just push where I was feeling good. And see where I could kind of improve on with the stations. Training took a little bit of a hiccup with the gym expansion, which I'm not using that as an excuse. It was just kind of the way things were going because training was like on a really good roll going into this one. So yeah, the it's interesting because again the pro women really got spread out. So I didn't really know a lot of people in my heat. So you don't really know kind of who to go off of and stuff. And but yeah, the my running felt really good this weekend. Um I had my best sled times, which the sled is always a struggle for me. And so I kind of tried to, I had my fastest sled pull actually by 2 minutes, which I was really happy about because that has been a massive roadblock for me. Yeah, and I was feeling pretty good after that, kind of still being in there. And then my burpees, I don't know if I got some sort of a second wind, but I was doing my burpees and I was feeling really good. And it was kind of one of those moments where I was like, I was jumping and like my jumps were big, and I was like, whoa, that was a really big jump. And then I was like, and then I'd keep going. I'm like, man, I'm jumping really far today. And I was kind of in this like jolly mood around burpees because I was like, man, I'm just flying and kind of having fun. And I started just like passing girls. And I kind of have with each station, I have like a phrase that I repeat. I do a lot with like with pre-race stuff with power phrases and stuff. And with my burpees, I just kept saying the word float, like when I'm jumping, float. And then I kept jumping so far. So then I started kind of goofing around with myself, and it would be like, boing. I was like, whoa, I just jumped so far. So I felt so good on burpees. And then I was waiting for the fatigue to set in, and it's like it never happened, and I don't know why. And I ended up passing 8 women in the burpees. I counted 5. Jeff told me later it was 8, but whatever, it's hard to count in races anyways. But yeah, and I looked after, and I had the fastest burpee broads of any pro women over the weekend, which was I don't know how that happened, but
Bro, I
anyway,
didn't realize that. That's awesome.
yeah, felt pretty good on those.
You should become like a burpee online Hyrox influencer coach. Anyway, moving right along.
Right. Right. Yeah, again, it was one of those stations where I'm like, just see what you can do. I love burpees. I find like I can lower my heart rate when doing burpees. When I started Spartan, I obsessed over burpees because I could often not get through obstacles. So I did so many burpees when I started Spartan racing. So I'm just efficient at them. I'm low to the ground also, which helps. And yeah, so I was feeling pretty good after those, and I had my best farmer's carry ever. I've been really working on that one. Cramped up like mad during lunges, as I do. I'd love to be able to not cramp up on lunges. And yeah, and then wall balls, I think I probably mistimed a bit of my nutrition because I really pushed burpees, farmer's carry, lunges, and I bonked pretty hard going into wall balls. And I've never really felt this before in Hyrox, but I was so dizzy I could barely see straight, and I couldn't hit the target. I was airballing it. It would like miss and hit me in the face, and I was really struggling to string together like more than 6 or 7 wall balls at a time. And yeah, so that was a pretty bad station for me, but all in all, my time was good. But yeah, there was obviously with that one something I do need to work on. But I took 4 minutes off of my time from Chicago last year, so I can't be upset about that. And yeah, all in all, like it was a good race for me with everything considering. So
Yeah, and as far as PRs go, I do think it was, and most people don't say this when they PR. I think it was a quick course. It wasn't 4 minutes quick. It wasn't crazy quick, but like, maybe 20 seconds quicker than an average course or something like that. Like it was well laid out, which, we should
yeah,
mention. We talked about us a lot, but the course itself was well laid out. You
yeah,
had everything in logical 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 order, aside from wall balls being in the middle, but that's
yeah.
for obvious reasons. And then the nice laps, although we did see a lot of people get penalties on timing of the laps. Part of that being because the night before on Friday night, the live stream, they said it was the first one was going to the in on your second time. And that was not correct. It was on the third time you get to the in arch, you go in. So some people who maybe weren't paying attention in the corral, because they didn't mention it in the corral, they fixed it. But either way, it did get out there, and some people made that mistake. And like all Hyrox, there's many people who, because of the counting, screw it up quite a bit. So there was a lot of time penalties that way. But the course was good. The course was fast. The floor was not slick. It was good and grippy. By the way, for all you people who like ultra shoes with zero drop and all that stuff, all of the like 3 people, me and Jack Bauer, and and Rye and Stephanie Hillman. Successful test for the new Vanish. Like their carbon Vanish, great, like good grip on the sleds, no issues whatsoever. Because the old carbon Vanish had no grip. This one has great grip. So awesome shoe, good Hyrox shoe. If you like zero drop and big toes, big feet, wide feet. So just a little thing. Yeah, but the course was great. The course was really laid out well. I really liked it. You want to talk about some of the things that we liked and didn't like, or where do you want to go?
Yeah, like things that could still be improved on. Um,
Obviously, the running thing, we've covered that.
yeah, yeah. And some of that is just a learning curve with having so many new people to the racing scene. So that will get better with time. Yeah, I mean, judging is always a thing that comes up. And we are always trying to help too. Like we don't just want to be here and complain about judging. You know, Dave had a head judge position and we're trying to help with these things too. But there were some frustrations with judging and just there's with the sport being so new, it's also hard to find people who understand all of the rules where then they can step in and judge and confidently be able to say with no reps, with wall balls or lunges or burpees, um, even with some other stations, because again, it is new. So you can't just always pull people in, and you need a lot of judges with wall balls, and you need people who are confident enough to be able to call no reps. So there is these things that we see where there are issues with judging, and they're working on it. But yes, we had some frustrations.
Yeah, and like I said, there was a lot of really, really good judges. There were
Mhm.
some new judges who were good. There were some veteran judges who were great. And there were some judges who were just shit. And I'm sorry, like that. I hate to say it that way, but there were some judges who were really bad, and some people whose days didn't turn out as well as they would have liked because of it. And it hurts. It's tough to say, and it sucks. And I think that some of those judges who weren't good can become very good, and other ones just maybe it's not your thing.
Yeah.
Maybe not. But
Yeah.
I will say this: if you are someone who has a complaint about the judging and you would like to see better judging, and you know the rules, fucking step up, you
Hmm.
know, even if it's for an hour. And this is something actually that I will critique Hyrox on is when they look for volunteers, they're always like, okay, well, we need you here from like 6 a.m. to like 9 p.m. and all that stuff. And I do think DECA does the same thing sometimes too,
Yeah.
but they might be coming back a bit on that is no, if someone comes and says, I am an experienced judge, I can do this for 2 hours, they need to go, thank you. Here's a shirt. Let's get you out there. Right.
Yeah.
First, make sure that they know what they're doing and then send them
Mhm.
out there and like be like, yes. Cause I think when people don't think they have to be out there for 9 hours, they'd be willing to go out for a couple hours. And like Tara Jackson, she jumped in for probably about 2, 3 hours there after her race
Mhm.
and did some judging, and it was great. Like she did a good job, and some people knew who she was and kind of got a kick out of it. And
Mhm.
like just step up for it. I'm not saying you have to mandate everybody goes out and judge it. I'm just saying if you see an issue and you think you can help, even if it's for a little while.
Yeah.
We'd all appreciate it and make the sport better, right?
Mhm.
So, but
Yeah.
yes, there needs help there. There needs to be definitely needs to be help there, and I know there were a lot of people out there who tried their best, myself included. And it's just like right now, there's only so much you can do, and you just do your best. But it was frustrating. I will, and I've since I had a lot of frustration. I had a lot of frustration, and at one point, I was just downright angry. Um, but in hindsight, I try to look back and just go like, okay, it's getting better. They're trying to make it better. This was the first one in Canada. Try to
Yeah.
give it a little leeway, and more people who know and get better will step up because, like, especially the head judges, there was a lot of really good head judges there that did a great
Mhm.
job, and there was a lot of very willing volunteers who frigging stayed out there for an eternity.
Yeah.
And even some of those who maybe weren't the best judges in the world, they hung in there and stayed out there for an eternity. And it's not easy. Man, it's not easy. Like, sit there and count 100 for all day for hundreds and thousands of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know. Anyway, the big issue again I had and with the setup was this waiting corral for when there wasn't a judge available. And I hate complaining about it because I'm like, well, what are they supposed to do? And in my mind, it's the event is oversold. And I said the same thing about New York. It was oversold for the size of the venue, and I believe that this event was oversold for the size of the venue. And maybe it's not oversold, but maybe the waves are just too big, and they need to shrink the waves down a bit to accommodate for the fact that they just cannot get enough judges. So they shrink the waves down a bit, spread them out a little bit more, and stop that bottleneck. Because the fact that I, even myself, had to tell people that sometimes go wait in this corral, which will stop your time or the time will get taken off. I'm not sure how the actual technology works in that scenario, but it was a penalty free zone, and have people wait to go and do their wall balls was it very much bothered me, and it was embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was probably my biggest frustration. And I hope that they realize that this is a big deal, and it should not be that way. And you don't know, like I know that there was elite men that got put into that waiting area,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it affected them.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there was probably elite women who got put in there and teams and everything. It was very aggravating, and it was definitely my biggest pet peeve of the event. And yeah, it needs to be dealt with, and it needs to be something that we do not have.
Mm-hmm.
I, and I'm assuming, like I said, if they're going to sell that many tickets, make smaller waves, spread out the heat unless you have, or spread out the heats unless you have the judging power to do so. And when it comes down to that, like it's been said before, all hands on deck, get everybody out there,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah. It's kind of one of those business mentalities where like one bad experience, they'll tell 10 people.
mhm,
And one good experience, they'll tell a few. So I would rather, from a business perspective, have less people that be able to create a really positive experience for everybody
mhm.
than have lots of numbers and do really well financially on one event, but have a bunch of people with kind of negative of experiences just because we had too many people on course.
Yeah.
Um,
And I mean, it
and
goes back to that was the same issue with your problem, is there's
mhm,
just too many people there
yeah,
to accommodate the
the run course was just too packed.
any anytime you have an event that is interval running, essentially,
Hmm.
Deadly Dozen, Deca, Hyrox, they're all interval running, right? Because you've got a zone and you're back out on the run. So that means everybody who's finishing is running, everybody who's starting is running, everybody in the middle zones is running, everybody's on the track at once. It's you're going to have a finite amount of people you can put out there. And I think that obviously businesses want to stretch that as much as they can to make as much money as they can. But it seems at this point, some of the quality, of the event, for people is suffering. And they're not having trouble selling tickets. That's great. So now we need to focus on the quality of people's experience.
Yeah.
So hopefully Myrox doesn't shoot me and realizes we're just trying to help, as we always do, right? We always try to help. And
Yeah. Well, and again, if given the opportunity, like there would be ways too that if we would try to make it better. Like if there was a way that beforehand we knew between these hours, we need to have all hands on deck at wall balls.
yeah,
Because we're sending out extra people in the mixed doubles races
yeah,
or in the men's, and then we recruit more people, or you find a like a high school hockey team and you offer them volunteer hours if you have to be here for an hour, and then this team you have to be here for an hour, and you tell them all the standards ahead of time, and like you're well prepared way ahead of time for these things that are coming. And again, it's not easy to get volunteers, I understand this, But again, there are times in the day when it's going to be busy and you can kind of foresee this coming because
Yeah.
you have oversold certain races.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully it gets better. Hopefully it gets better. We did have other things we talked about earlier on the show was good was the bathroom situation was great.
Mm-hmm.
Not only was it great, and and the point where there was accessible bathrooms, there was many toilets, they were clean. I don't know what you, but most of the bathrooms I went in the guys' bathroom, there was a guy in there constantly cleaning it.
There was two in the women's side, yeah.
I mean, that's that's well done. You don't get that at every event. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
He was like
Mm-hmm.
restocking, mopping the floor. Like it was great. I was like, that was
Mm-hmm.
amazing. What did you think? And we never we never talked about this before, but so in New York, the crossing of the
Yeah.
track was a nightmare. Um, and we've mentioned in the past that it would take like 40 minutes to get out of the warm-up zone, go to the bathroom, come back, get ready for so I mean, there was no like quick, 5 minutes before your race, go for a pee.
Yeah.
It was you needed at least 40, 45 minutes, or you were going to be in trouble and missing your wave. What did you think about the crossing for this?
It was pretty chaotic.
Hmm.
Because there was really only two places that you could cross. Um, yeah, so it was tricky at certain points, especially during the doubles races. I was thinking about it too. Like, I don't know why Hyrox hasn't considered figuring out a way to build some sort of scaffolding over a section where it can be people can constantly walk over it. Um,
I
because
work I work with scaffolders every day, and those
uh,
boys could have you a bridge built and a big Hyrox sign put on it inside of 2 hours.
yeah, so I don't know why
And it
they
would be
haven't considered
engineered
this.
approved.
Yeah, it would, and again, this happened to us also in our doubles race where people were trying to flood, 50 people across in this tiny little gap that you have in the race course, and some people just are not really paying attention. And yeah, that would definitely cut down on some of the chaos with crossing that.
So in New York, they had this incredibly elaborate system, which should have worked well if people weren't stupid. And I don't mean an individual person, because I think this was on a movie somewhere where, a person is smart. People are stupid.
Masses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the system in New York, they had like a almost like this holding area in the middle of the track. So they would have one side where I'm trying to explain it. So they had two different areas to go onto the track. So from one side of the track, you would close off, and then the runners would go around there, and then everybody would fill into this holding area, right? And then everybody that was in the holding area would be crossing the road, crossing the side of the track where no runners were. And then they would switch and do the other side. And it would have worked great, but what happened was people would get into the holding area and then stop and not fill it up. They would just all stand right up by the gate to try to be the first one out the other side. And no matter how many times the security trying to get them to make it work right, they wouldn't do it. So it was a good idea, but because people wouldn't listen, it failed epically.
Uh-huh.
And I also think they were trying to put too many people through at once. If they had just like been like, okay, 10 seconds, boom, whatever. But anyway, Toronto just went with the let's have a couple of security people there.
Yeah.
And well, I'll be honest, I didn't really see them do very much at all. It just kind of was like anybody saw a spot and they ran for it. It was like crossing the 401 in traffic time and just hoping you didn't get hit. So,
Mm-hmm.
which ended up working better than it did in New York, but it
Well,
was still
I think
kind of
it did actually work quite well because if you
oh
saw a spot and like you knew you could run, then you go for it.
yeah, that's what it was like. By the way, etiquette. When there is an area for crossing, don't stand in that area and watch the race. People are trying to cross. I can't tell you
Yeah.
how many times I'd get there and I'd be like these herd of people and like, are you guys trying to cross? And I'm like, no, we're just watching. I'm like, but this
Why
is
are
the
you here?
crossing area. Get out of
Uh-huh.
the shift over there. Get out of the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
There were many spots along the fence line you could have watched that weren't the crossing area.
Hmm.
So I don't know. It kind of worked. But
Work better.
it worked better than New York. But I mean, like you say, scaffold bridges, super quick, super easy to
Yeah,
build. And I've heard people say before, oh, well, they can't really build these stuff because of, rules and
liability.
guidelines. They put up a grandstand. They can build a scaffold bridge.
Yeah,
These
I
are
think.
doable things. I will send you scaffolders. I know many. It won't be a problem.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but yeah, I like that. And again, one of my biggest worries and the complaints about some of these city venues because they go to big cities and they're expensive cities. Toronto is one of these things. Parking was cheap and plentiful.
Yeah, and they did obviously plan this really well because there was tons of parking around the center. So it was not an issue, I don't think.
No, I think it was the best parking of almost any venue I've been to. Well, it's the best parking for any Hyrox I've been to,
Yeah,
and far and away the most affordable.
yeah,
Like both days where I parked, and I was not there early. I got there after race started. I was not 6 in the morning, and I
yeah,
was parked so close to the entrance from the underground parking that I would literally walk 20 feet to the door, up the stairs, and I'm at registration,
yeah,
and it was awesome. So
yeah,
I was so close to the point where I didn't need a bag check because I was quicker to just walk down to my car and get my stuff there and keep everything in there.
yeah. Same
So
with us.
parking was fantastic. Food was decent, was good. That was really good. I mean, my biggest issues were just that fucking wall balls, and it soured it so much for me that it really bothered me because it was I was off to such a great start. Like we had such a good experience on our run, and then just as the day went on, I'm like, this is just got to be fixed.
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
know?
and it's frustrating too as people that are like trying to fix it and I saw this today, where Hiller Fit or whatever, the
Yeah.
CrossFit guy, who has a lot of following, posted this like 2-second video of some famous guy that I don't know doing terrible wall balls, like two of his wall balls. And then it's kind of like, oh, is this what Hyrox is? It's like, oh my. Like
Yeah.
that's so unfair because of the amount of people that were trying. And it's so different also when you're looking at the people that are, the pros and the people we're talking about, like podium contenders, they are stricter with them. So, and I don't know who this judge was, or I don't know who this person was, but and yeah, they were terrible reps. And yes, it was like, oh, that's not acceptable. But you're talking about like 2 reps of wall balls with the 7,000 people that went
Mm.
through it, and the amount of people that are trying to make this as best as possible. And then that tiny little 5-second clip is a reflection of Hyrox as a whole.
And see, this is what Hillard is, and Hillard admits this all the time. He's like, I'm about the clicks. I'm doing whatever it takes to get the clicks, whatever it takes to get people to pay attention, and
Yeah,
that's what people want to see is the chaos. Um, I mean, that would be like me going out there and showing 5 seconds of shoulder injuries from snatches and saying, "Is this what CrossFit is?"
yeah,
It's not a fair sample size. Now, is it a problem right now? Hell yeah, it's a problem. It's also
yeah,
a problem. It's also a problem in CrossFit. Otherwise, Hiller wouldn't have a following because that's 90% of his stuff is these reps are shit. These reps are bad. That's why he has shirts that say no rep. I mean, this is his
yeah,
business. So
yeah,
anyone who is following him knows that or should know that.
yeah.
And and again, Hiller, if I mean, I know he doesn't listen to us, he don't care. But if you want, get out there and help, man, make it better because a lot of your CrossFit people are coming out to High Rocks. So make it better for them. By the
Yeah.
way, tons of CrossFit people out, and that was cool to see.
Hmm.
Including, and I didn't see her on the day Carolyn Prevo went out and did her doubles.
I did run by Carolyn a couple times. Yep.
Ooh, subtle brag. Saw that one. Ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't. So she ran doubles on Sunday then.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't see her. That's why I didn't see her. I'm like, man, I'm sure I would have noticed her at the wall balls when she came through, but I didn't. Anyway, that's why I didn't
Hmm.
see her. But she was there, obviously. Emma Lawson and
Jack Farlow.
Jack
Yeah.
Farlow, Sam Cornway, and just tons of other CrossFitters that were there
Yeah.
and throwing down and having a good time.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was very different for them.
Hmm.
Um, I
Odds
know,
are
And it was lots of running. And I did listen to Carolyn on another podcast today. And she addressed some of the, like, she's like, same thing. She's like, yeah, there was some shit judging here and there. But she goes, also, like, when we do CrossFit events, when it's like older people or lesser skill, we get slack on our reps too and on our judging. She's like, I've done it before, and it's just kind of the way it is. Um, about when you are being judged though in Hyrox and stuff like that, if you're, offered the box or the bucket or whatever, it is not the box or bucket of shame. You do not have to feel bad. Just use it. I mean,
It's the bucket of joy.
it's the bucket of joy, yes. In reality, the thing is, and I'll be honest, I didn't do this with everybody, and I kind of gauged who is like, and it's probably wrong, and I don't really like doing this, but it's, put it this way, it's the way I was, you know, led to believe should that they want it. But um, if if you're offered the bucket by the judge, and let's just say, especially if you're someone who is competitive and you're not getting the depth, just take it, because the other option is, and if I'm the judge and I feel you're competitive, I'm just gonna keep no repping until you either get to depth or take that box. Because if you're not getting down there and you're saying you can't get down there, I'm not going to all of a sudden go, okay, that's fine then. You just do what you like. No, we're just going to keep no repping until you use the box or whatever, because it's not fair. It's not fair to others. If you want to be competitive and we don't hold you to the standard. So yeah, don't be afraid of it. It's not a bad deal. I personally want
Yeah.
everybody to use it.
I mean, or just like with my athletes though, I like train beyond depth.
Yeah.
Because when you're fatigued, you're not always sure. But like if you're constantly working way below depth, then it's just not a question. Like I do say to my clients, don't get the bucket of shame. I do say it to them.
Oh no,
I
Bethany.
do. Because I want them always training
Yes.
like beyond the point that it would ever be a question that they would be no wrapped, so that you are just comfortable with full bottoming out on your wall balls.
All right, all
Like
right. So
don't play with that line. Just keep working to get depth.
trainer suggestion right here. Trainer suggestion, trainer question. I'm someone, not me, I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm someone who struggles with mobility and I can't seem to get depth. What should I do to help that?
Before and after your workouts, you're working at like squat depth. So what I have my athletes do though is, so we go to your poles, and so that you can sit down into a deep squat and work into that position, so you're not falling over. And you also, like, mobility is one piece and flexibility, but being able to be strong at your end range of mobility is a whole other thing. So when you're at the bottom of your wall ball, you have to have strength to be able to push out of full depth. So sometimes you have to do this with weight also. So you're working that end range movement pattern with weight. So it's not always just about flexibility, it's also strength at end range of mobility. So you kind of have to work both ends of it.
Do you know what
Do
I
you know
did to
what I'm
help?
saying?
I do actually, I do know what you're saying. Yeah. Do you know what I did to help me? Because I used to struggle with that. And I don't, I've had knee issues in the past. Um, I have a 12 by 14 by 16 plyo box. And essentially, to start, I just sat on it. And I sat on it and I would put my heels up against the edge of the box. And then I slowly would start over time shifting my butt more and more forward and getting more and more so that I'm not really sitting on the box. I can just touch the box. So essentially slowly working my way into position. And then I started training essentially overhead squats, but just with a broomstick. And I found nothing has helped me more getting into a squat position, a low squat position, than training overhead squats, which I don't like overhead squats with a weight because I don't like the stress it puts on your shoulders. That's my personal opinion. But just having that position of my arms and squatting down on the box has really helped the mobility a lot. So for me, it's just spending time down there.
Yeah.
the more time you spend down there, the more you're going to get used to it, and it's going to help you. And now, like, I've never had a no rep for depth on a wall, right? And I'm not a guy who ever had great mobility, but I've never had a no rep for it. I missed the target, but
Yeah, I got no rep for missing the target, but never with my squat
I
down.
gave a lot of no reps for missed targets because they want you to hit the center of that damn thing, and I think it's stupid. But anyway, I still had to give out the no reps, and a lot of people, like, just some people complete air balls too, just
That
straight up and straight back down. How many did you have?
a couple, especially at the beginning where I couldn't see straight.
I had one where I missed.
Oh
It,
yeah, I missed a couple.
it really, but to be honest, my judge wasn't watching, but I called my no rep anyway.
Hmm.
I was like, shit, that's a no rep.
Hmm.
But yeah, I found that, like, just spending, I think anything, right? You want to be a better runner, run more. You want to
Yeah.
squat deeper, spend
Well,
more
and
time down in the
also
low.
with when we're talking about hip mobility with the depth of your squat, like there's health reasons to be able to get
Yeah.
down in the base of your squat. So I know we're talking about like a racing perspective, but even for mobility purposes and the health of your hips, to be able to be in a deep squat is very healthy for you, for your hip mobility. And with running also, there's a much less issues with hip impingements and bursitis and all these other things if you don't have mobility restrictions. So I think continuing to work that bottom part of your squat is just generally good for the health of your hips.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. Back to the racing deal. One of the other issues we had was placement of people in waves in the elite group. And just like, for example, I know you can go off about the women there, but the men's winner came from wave 5 and was a known threat to maybe not to be expected to win, but to finish a top 5.
Yeah.
So it, this is something as well for the sports side and the entertainment side and all that stuff that needs to be straightened up, because the men's had that issue, but the women's all was worse.
Yeah. The women's was worse because we knew the women
Mhm.
that were going to be in the top 5. And these women tried to race each other and were not given the opportunity. So Maria Fessick and Amy are both Elite 15 athletes, and they were in 2 separate heats, and they tried to be in the same heat together. And Tara Jackson, also a previous Elite 15, was in the same heat as Amy. And Maria, who tried often, and different people tried to get her in the same heat and wasn't allowed, which from a spectator standpoint, and even from the racing athlete standpoint, like that adds so much more value to the race to be able to watch these women race each other. Otherwise, they're kind of just doing, especially Maria, kind of just doing a time trial. And that's not really what we're out here for. And there was so much excitement around the men's race because we had Megita and Colin Stiefer and Sammy Bear and Jesse Bruce and Ryan Atkins was in the mix, and there's so much hype around that men's race, but we kind of missed out on that with the women because we spread them all out, well, especially Maria and Amy. And so from the value of the hype around these pro races, we lost it for the women. We had it for the men, but then the ironic thing was we kind of
Hmm.
celebrated Dave Megida as the winner, and then 5 heats later, Marcus Wallace and um
Oh,
I'm
I can't
forgetting
remember his name.
Douglas,
Yeah,
something,
Douglas. Yes.
was a second place man, and they didn't get any of that hype because they were in a heat later, and they deservedly needed to be in that heat at the beginning. So it was kind of, it was uh like a miss.
Yeah, well, like
Big.
Marcus Wallace said that during his run, the beginning of his run, Megiddo was announced as the first ever Canadian champion. And he's like, I'm not even done. Like, I mean, I'm just starting.
Well, he was the first.
Yeah, he
Mm-hmm.
was. I guess he was. Yeah, Marcus was the second. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's something kind of fun about being a dark horse, but at the same time, he really missed out on a moment.
Yeah, big time.
So,
He should have.
and he blew that race out of the water like a 57.
by the way, if any of you have ever met Marcus Wallace, the dude is a class act and a great guy. Like
Yeah.
he is awesome. And it does feel shitty that he got cheated out of that moment. And I'm sure Megita feels the same way. Like Megita
got ripped away from Megita.
yeah, then it got ripped away from Megita too, who had his moment, but then it was like, oh, psych, no, not really. And it kind of yeah, and
Well, and Megita
the
probably
point
would have
is,
loved to push from those two guys too.
and it was avoidable. That's the problem,
Yeah.
is it was very avoidable,
Yeah.
you know, and same with the women's wave, because like originally it was yeah, so it wasn't the women's original thing. We had Morgan come in on Sunday and take a spot, did we not?
Yeah.
Because Tara got bumped off the podium.
Yeah, so Morgan ended up third. Tara got bumped off. So
And that's something you too we haven't really even talked about. But if Morgan obviously didn't sign up for the original race, didn't get in for the Saturday. They added the Sunday. She signed up for the Sunday. Well, I'm sorry. Morgan Schultz is a well-known elite competitor, put in great times. She's a threat to be in the elite 15. I'm going to make room for her on Saturday and put her in.
yeah.
Right now, not if it's sold out. You can't. Once it's sold out, you sold out. You can't just go throwing everybody in. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that once you had a race on Saturday or on Sunday, okay, well, we had this, you know, exceptional elite contender. Let's see if she wants to race on Saturday with all the other women, and we can make room in the wave, and we can make that happen because we know someone's not going to show up for that wave.
Yeah, and the pro races, their heats are smaller. So
Yeah.
to put Morgan in there, I don't think. And she's a proven athlete. She's been around Hyrox, world champ. Like, there's no one that would really argue with putting Morgan into those heats.
No, exactly. And I mean, we didn't mention like Lauren Rentola. Like she was another one that could have been, like, okay, so if I'm making that wave for women, I mean, I'm putting obviously Amy in it, I'm putting Tara in it, I'm putting Lauren and Morgan, and I would have yourself, and what's that, and Maria, like, and other Katie Simmons and other women who have times that are like have shown up really good, and I'm sure there's some I'm forgetting, right?
Yeah.
And it'd be such a great finish and exciting and fun and good to see, but
yeah,
I just kind of feel cheated out of it.
Yeah. Everyone was, well, not everyone, but it was kind of time trialing.
Yeah. So anyway, well, that was what it was.
Well, and we saw Ryan Atkins was allowed to move into the heat.
Yeah.
With the and again, I don't understand why, given the privileges that he was, considering he hasn't done Hyrox before. So it's like you were willing to make this exception.
No, same with Sam Cornway.
Yeah. So like, why not Maria? Like, why not Morgan? I don't understand.
Yeah, and neither do I. And
it's not Ryan. I'm not saying it's not Ryan Atkins' fault.
No.
And I'm not saying he shouldn't have been there, because he should.
But no, he did spectacular.
Why not? Why not Maria? Why not Morgan?
Yeah. Ryan did exactly what we thought he was going to do. Mm-hmm. He had a great engine and he did really well. And then when things got a little technical on the wall balls and stuff, he struggled a bit. Mm-hmm. It was funny to see him actually sitting on the wall ball resting. That was kind of comical, but it was good. And there was some great. Samuel Lee Bear had a good run. Jesse Bruce had a good run. There was a lot of stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, and we have complaints, but all in all, like I give the event like an A, like as far as compared to other Hyrox events.
Oh yeah, I mean,
it was on a curve.
I'm grading on a curve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it was a great event. Everything is gonna have its ways to improve. It's still new, and this was the first one here, but it was still overall a very fantastic experience.
Yeah. And I want people, that's what I would like people to take away. Mm-hmm. I'd like Hyrox to take away some of our criticisms and work on it. But the people who are interested in racing, and the people who went there, I want you to take away the positives, and that it was a cool event, and that it, it was an atmosphere. It was fun. It was good. It was a good time. And I'm so glad that, even with issues I'm so glad that I went, and so glad that it will be back in Canada, and that Canada represented itself well. We we put on one of the best, one of the best events going. I was super happy about it.
Mhm.
And I think the next time, I mean, I think for sure they'll be back. I think we might get another Canadian event, hopefully. But if you were to guess where second Canadian event would be, what would you go with?
Vancouver or Montreal?
I'm gonna throw Calgary out there.
Only 3 places.
Yeah, option. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna go with Calgary. I'll take that. Take the under on
It's
that one.
only 4
Oh,
cities.
yeah.
There's
Yeah.
more than 4 cities.
Yeah. I mean, Central, probably West Coast makes sense, but Montreal is such a good um athlete base, so
Yeah, yeah. Quebec
they
has
probably
great
all sell out.
athletes.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, put it wherever they're gonna sell out again.
Yeah.
And they'll be back in Toronto too. So, and I hope
Yeah.
back to that same venue. I want to go right back there. Like even driving in, I drove in both days, no issues. Well, okay, one issue on the 410, but that was due to some stupid construction. But other than that, traffic was even great. It was perfect. It was easy to get to, easy to find.
Mhm.
Yeah, so on the back venue.
Mhm.
There's probably a dozen other things that we should talk about, like OCRWC.
I
Uh,
know.
I think maybe we'll do that next week. We'll talk about
Yeah, I
OCRWC.
think so too. Yeah.
Um, and also um, Spartan 100-meter and sprint championships is this coming weekend. So we'll talk. We'll have maybe have an OCR episode next week.
Yeah,
There's a
sounds
lot to
good.
talk about, and yeah, we can go on and forever. Um, yeah, I was going to say something about DECA, but by the time this comes out, that'll be solved, so it doesn't matter. All right, you got anything else, Beth? Or are you good?
No, that's good for now. Yeah,
All
so
right.
thanks everyone for listening and everyone that competed this weekend at the first Canadian Hyrox. It was a blast and I hope everyone had a really good experience with it. So it was really exciting to have Hyrox come to Canada finally, long overdue. So yeah, thanks everyone for listening.
One more thing. I do want to mention this, and I forgot that I wanted to mention it. I want to give a shout out to John Loney. John Loney won his age group, which is
Mhm.
60 to 64 or 60 to
Mhm.
65, whatever it is, setting the fastest time in his age group for this year and the fifth fastest for his age group ever.
Wow.
So just wanted to give a little shout out to John there. He deserves
Mhm.
it. It was great. So
Mhm.
well done, John. And again, congratulations to everybody who went out and everybody who came and said hi, by the way. A lot of people came and said hi, and I
Yeah.
really appreciate it. And keep listening. Talk to you all later.